big spreadsheet and a big binder for the assessor every year. But it's kind of got it down to a science now. But it was, we had like several meetings with the assessor in the beginning to sort this all out. So
I'd like to see what the map looks like from St. John's, because I remember when they
In 2020, there were like 4 challengers, but they all lost.
yeah.
So we'll see. We'll know like at the end of it.
The Plymouth Township Planning Commission meeting will come to order at 7 o'clock. Secretary, please call roll.
Commissioner Cebulski?
Here.
Commissioner Barberina?
Here.
Commissioner Grieger here. Treasurer Dorshevitz?
Here.
Commissioner Boyd?
Here.
Commissioner Barry?
Here.
Commissioner Ladowek?
Here. And do we have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted? I have no changes.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Barberina, supported by Commissioner Boyd to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And is there a motion to approve the January 29th minutes?
I have a comment on them.
Okay.
The motions that I had made, referring to certain items in the planner's report, like I'd read all 4 of the items. If I'm looking at the first, you see under unfinished business, Northville Downs, action taken. It says planning commission meeting for the reasons that the applicant has failed to comply with the first 4 of the 6 conditions. I'd read them. And then also for the next motion, I was just thinking that for ease of, if anyone wanted to review the minutes, they wouldn't have to go to the planner's report if the items are actually listed. So what are other people's thoughts? Because it says just the conditions listed in the planning commission report,
The 6
not
conditions.
the actual conditions. So if someone were to say go online and read our minutes, they would have no idea what I was referring to.
You're talking about this right here.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for the next motion as well.
I think minutes technically just have to say something happened. They don't have to go into the detail, but I don't know.
The only concern that I would have is, I know when let's say we do a PUD recommendation for approval, and we say according to the planner's report, then it goes to the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees get the minutes. So if it says it's in the planner's report, would the trustees also get a copy of the planner's report because there's that reference? That would be my
Yeah,
concern.
that's always in the packet. Yeah.
Is it?
It is in the packet?
It is.
Yeah, it's always included. I mean, I don't know if everybody reads it.
Well,
That's a
that's-
different
If I could read my
Well,
question.
would anyone else prefer the items like that be actually written in the minutes with more detail? Or is everyone satisfied with something more vague like this?
Are the minutes, Laura, are the minutes kept together with the application? So let's say 2-3 years down the road?
Yes, there is a paper copy placed in the file, the hard file copy, and there's also an electronic PDF of the minutes that are attached to the parcel ID number in the BS&A process, once they're approved.
Yep.
But you would need access to those files or the BS&A system, as opposed to if you were just going online at the township's website and you were pulling up the minutes from this meeting, you would not necessarily see those.
You'd have to go looking for the planner's report.
Correct. Yeah, you'd have to request that information from the township. We know it's here, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a clear path for someone from the public.
And can a link be added? It would take somebody there, they'd click on where it says planner's report or address, and then have a link.
Yes, but the links can get broken if something is moved. So I wouldn't recommend that path.
Do you know what other communities do?
It's really a preference. Some communities are more detailed with their minutes and others are, much
basic.
brief, yeah. Brief.
I mean, I think the minutes are already pretty detailed.
I think so.
They are, and it should just be consistent.
That's what if we start doing it now, do we have to list, every time we just refer to the planner's report? Are we gonna have to list everything again in the minutes? If we start with this, just a question, in order to be
I prefer to
consistent?
keep it,
Simple.
yeah.
This might be an item for the township attorney to weigh on as well, just, from a legal perspective of record keeping.
I'm aware of what you're talking about with respect to specifically listing the reasons for the revocation of the recommendation of approval of the site plan and PUD contract. In this particular case, it might be prudent to do that just because the township has already been sued. Notwithstanding that, even if the minutes go as they are presented right now, my understanding is all planning commission meetings are on video, and those videos are preserved. So if there's any question as to what's in the minutes, that could always be cross-referenced with the videos.
So do we want to make an exception just in this case because of the situation with this PUD revocation?
Yes.
I would,
Yes,
yeah, I'd be
we
willing
do.
to that. I think that makes sense.
So then, Mr. Chairman, I move that we amend the minutes to include the items under unfinished business, Northville Downs. The first motion to include writing out the actual 4 items from the planner's report, and then the second item to do the same. And with that, I move that we approve the minutes with that change.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Barberina, supported by Commissioner Dorchevitz to amend the approval of the minutes of January 29th as so stated. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to abstain because I wasn't present at that meeting.
Okay. So Commissioner Grieger abstains. Public comment, so this is an opportunity for anyone that is here that wishes to speak on a non-agenda item. You'd have 3 minutes. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak to a non-agenda item? Okay, hearing none, then we will move on. Application 2466, the Seraph Fund Automotive Special Land Use. And Ms. Howell, your
Thank you,
call your
Chairman.
report.
Thank you, Chairman Cebulski. The application before the commission is for the property located at 14760 Northville Road. This is a special land use request for an automobile commercial garage for minor repair work and an outdoor sales lot, a dealership. The site is developed as an auto repair and car wash facility today. This is dating back to at least 60 years ago. And the applicant proposes to use the existing front repair building for auto repair. But there's the second building behind that, which is a car wash facility, former car wash facility, that would be converted into additional space for minor auto repair work. The remainder of the lot would be improved and would be an area for the car sales. The site total is 1.5 acres over 2 parcels. And on the second page of our report, we provide some information regarding what constitutes minor versus major auto repair. And these definitions are already in the township zoning ordinance, and those are listed on the screen there, between minor auto repair and major repair or a body shop. I'd like to make it clear that the second definition of major auto repair is not a permitted use in the C2 district that this property is located in. So those activities that are listed in there are not allowed that is not something that the planning commission could grant or approve. So if activities that would fall into that major category would happen at the site in the future, that would be a code enforcement issue and a violation of the township's zoning ordinance. The applicant has provided 10 automotive-related uses to the township for consideration, and as to which category they would apply to, which the township attorney has reviewed. If you'd like to speak to that at all, Attorney Bennett?
Sure, I received this list of proposed uses. All of them involve auto repairs. I cross-referenced this list with the definitions in Article 36 of the zoning ordinance. Of the 10 uses listed in the applicant's list, which I presume is part of the application, I would say that all of these, because of the restrictions listed in this potential list of uses, would fall within routine maintenance and minor repair and not automobile major repair or body shop. Having said that, if the applicant engages in activity that would fall under the definition of auto major repair or body shop, the applicant would be in violation of any special use that the commission grants. I also heard some reference to auto sales. That is not within the definition of automobile commercial garage. It has its own special definition and is a separate special use. So are there going to be auto sales on that property?
Yes, and the applicant's original application requested both, and that is what the public hearing was noticed for.
That part was not involved in my analysis. There is auto sales is a special use under section 13.2.4. Pardon me, 13.2.2 of the zoning ordinance. And if that is part of the application also, the applicant would also have to meet the criteria under that section and section 2.7 of the zoning ordinance, which sets forth the criteria for granting a special use. But as this list of potential uses is stated on its face, those uses would fall under automobile commercial garage, routine maintenance, and minor repair.
Are you done, or?
No, if we're okay to move on, I'll go through the special land use criteria. Are there any questions on the use at this time?
Yes, I have one. One of these pages is called List of Potential Uses that you put on our desk. Attorney Bennett, item number 8, if I'm reading this right, includes complete engine replacement. Item number 9 includes transmission removal and replacement. Are you telling us in your professional judgment that those are criteria of the routine maintenance and minor repair as opposed to automobile major repair or body shop?
Not necessarily. If you look at the last sentence of 8, it says removal and replacement, no engine rebuilding or overhauling. Under automobile major repair, it does include the clause, major overhauling of the engine requiring the removal of the engine cylinder head or crankcase pan. Now, granted, I am not an auto mechanic, and I probably don't understand these terms as much as an auto mechanic would, but the I guess the saving grace of number 8 says no engine rebuilding or overhauling.
Okay.
And in number 9, it says also the same thing, no overhaul or rebuilding of transmission.
Thank you.
Other questions on this aspect of the application? Yeah, think we can move on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Attorney Bennett. So then, moving forward, there is the special land use review that's provided for in the ordinance, and there's 6 criteria that would need to be applied to the minor auto repair and the used car sales dealership. The first criteria is listed on page 3, where the intensity and scale of the use in comparison to surrounding uses and conditions. So there's a table that lists the current zoning district and future land use designations of the subject site and the adjacent properties. We note that the proposed use of the site for auto-related is not ideal with the majority of the surrounding area in terms of intensity and scale, as some of the surrounding uses are residential and could be negatively impacted by the proposed project, elements of which may generate noise or other disturbances. We also note that the site is adjacent to the M14 freeway. The use of the minor auto repair facilities and auto sales has the potential to be designed in a manner that could minimize its impact on the surrounding land. One of the conditions that the ordinance sets forth for auto repair is that a section 2611 methods of screening must be met. This section requires a solid wall, 6 feet in height, with a planting strip 6 to 8 feet wide, and trees planted at 35 feet on center. While the applicant has not provided a site plan, their concept plan provides an 8-foot green belt along the southern property line with an even wider green belt on the east property line. So that exceeds the 6 to 8 foot minimum requirement that the ordinance specifies. The green belt also proposes a berm and evergreen trees at 25 feet on center to screen the site. There's also an existing masonry wall along the south and east property lines. So with this proposal, it is a fact that the applicant is exceeding the requirements under the zoning ordinance for screening. This is something that the adjacent property owners have provided comments on at your seats, and some of this is information that you've received before. You can tell by the dates of the emails. But this is information from the adjacent property owners regarding the screening of the site. And there is a recommendation that the site be screened with 25-foot pine trees with no gaps along the brick wall, which the applicant has provided in their concept plan. Yep. As a special land use, this is not a site plan, correct? It is a concept plan, but it is outlining the conditions by which the site would need to be developed as. On page 3, we also note regarding the intensity and scale of the use that the buildings exceed the minimum required setbacks of this commercial district that it's located in. So under the current ordinance, a more intensive site development, building height, the building envelope, setbacks, smaller setbacks would be allowed on the site. And an image of that green belt is provided on page 4, showing a portion of the southern property line. Consideration 1B is consistency of the use to the master plan. The subject site is designated as high-density residential on the 2015 future land use map. For the past 60 years, the site has been used as an automotive repair shop and is next to M14, which may, pose challenges for a higher density multifamily residential. A higher density multifamily residential would also likely result in an increased building envelope on the site, greater than what is there today, and a taller structure. But we do note that it is not consistent verbatim with the future land use map of the adopted plan. Consideration 1C is the impact of the use to natural features on the site. And as the applicant has acknowledged and we've addressed, trees were removed from this property. To meet the township's code to replace that, since they were removed prematurely, an additional 41 trees would need to be provided, either on site or elsewhere. And so that would be a condition of approval if the special land use were granted, and that would need to be finalized with site plan approval. That is one of the conditions that we list on the recommendations page. The last consideration for criteria number 1D, this is on page 5, is that the intent of the zoning district in which the use is proposed to be located would be consistent. So this is not an application for rezoning. The property is zoned C2 general commercial. And the intent from the zoning ordinance is to serve the commercial needs of the general community and to provide for the planned concentration of more intensive uses that, because of their nature or larger volume of vehicular traffic, would be inappropriate for the C1 neighborhood commercial district. The proposed auto uses are in compliance with the intent of the C2 district. We do not have a C3 district in Plymouth Township. The C2 district is the most intensive commercial zoning district. So this is where drive-through facilities are allowed. This is where other auto repair facilities are allowed, car washes. So the fact that the applicant is proposing auto-related uses in the C2 is consistent with the intent of that district across the board. However, we do note that the site is separated from the concentration of other commercial uses to the north by M14, which means it may not meet the intent of a planned concentration of uses and may require additional screening or other operational restraints, conditions in order to satisfy this requirement. And then we just note other permitted by right uses in the same C2 district include retail establishments, drugstores, pharmacies, banks, offices, restaurants, without the service of alcohol. All these uses would be allowed on the site as long as they met the zoning dimensional standards, without a public hearing or any option for reduced hours of operation or additional screening, any of those discretionary considerations. Are there any comments on criteria 1 before we proceed?
I have a couple questions. For the green belt along the south and east borders, what is the requirement for the size of the evergreen trees that would be planted right now? In other words, I understand how big they would get eventually, but what size is required right now?
It's either 8 or 10.
Feet high?
Yes, that is what the ordinance specifies. So as a condition of approval, the commission could say that those trees would need to be larger at the time of planting. But that is what the ordinance prescribes.
I'm sorry, 8 to 10 feet tall, is that what you said?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then my other question is, if this was developed as a restaurant, which is allowed under the zoning, potentially could the hours of that restaurant, could they stay open till 2 o'clock in the morning on weekends?
Yes,
So we wouldn't have any control over the hours of that?
correct.
If it were used as a restaurant?
Correct. If it is a by right use, then that developer would need to meet the standards in the zoning code, and there's no discretionary consideration.
Thank you.
The second criteria is that the use must be designed, located, and operated so that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. We note hours of operation as one criteria to consider here. These could be limited to reduce potential noise generated from the site during non-business hours. So the proposed hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. through 9 p.m., and Sunday 9 a.m. through 6 p.m. The applicant has stated that these are the maximum if ever needed. However, the typical hours of operation, what would be on the door for business hours and advertised, would be less. Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and closed on Sundays. The maximum hours are in case anyone needs to come in early or leave late, or, pop in on a Sunday. It's important to note that per Michigan law, no car sales are allowed on Sundays. So based on this understanding and to address some of the concerns that we've heard from the adjacent residences in the past, it's recommended that the special land use would be limited in its hours of operation. So this would be Monday through Sunday, effectively, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. And that is information that we've also received from the adjacent property owner. Lighting is another factor to consider at the site. With this use, minimal lighting is proposed. Only building-mounted lights would be used, so there would be no pole lighting throughout the parking lots, which I think is a major advantage to this application and use. Due to the lower heights of the building, 17 feet, the building-mounted lighting would be lower in height than allowed in the C2 district if this property were redeveloped. Just by right, a different use could have 20-foot pole lights throughout their parking lot and up to 35 feet on the building. So this represents a significant reduction in potential lighting glare that the applicant has agreed to as part of this use. There are also concerns regarding security, and the applicant notes that there will be several cameras covering the entire property, at least 16 cameras total. Criteria 3, I'm on page 6 now, that is that the use will be adequately served by public services and facilities. And regarding utilities, the site, this is a developed site, it is currently served by water, storm, sanitary, and gas. And full engineering review would be required at the time of site plan if the special land use were granted. Criteria 4 is that the vehicular circulation will be in the best interest in relationship to the ingress and egress to the site and street intersections. We note that in the applicant's concept plan, the access to the site is proposed to remain with two-way entrances off Northville Road. However, their concept plan does show a 5-foot sidewalk now along Northville Road with a screening wall similar to what has been used in the DDA along the Ann Arbor Road corridor to screen the parking lot from the right-of-way. The applicant has also noted on their concept plan that 40 vehicles would be the maximum number of vehicles displayed for sale on the property. So based on what they've shown in their concept plan, there is adequate ingress and egress with those vehicles. It meets the dimensional standards of the ordinance. Criteria 5 is that the location, use, and assembly of persons in connection with the proposed use would not be hazardous. The applicant has stated that there would be a maximum of 8 employees at one time if the business was fully utilized and successful. That would be the maximum amount of employees, staff on site. Criteria number 6, this is on page 7, is that the proposed site layout is in compliance with the general site development standards of Article 29, Site Plan and Development Approval. So can it meet the zoning code standards? We find that the site plan could comply with these dimensional standards. We've already talked about a few of them, the landscaping, the parking dimensional standards. The table that's provided on page 7 details what is required in the C2 district that the property is zoned and what's proposed. You can see that all of those standards are in compliance and they exceed the minimum required by Article 20 Schedule of Regulations. So the setbacks are greater than what's required. The building height is much less than what's allowed. There's also several use standards that are related to automotive sales and the automobile commercial garages for minor repair. These standards can be met Some of them would need to be verified during the site plan review process on the official site plan, like the detailed landscape plan. But these standards can be met. On page 9, we offer a recommendation. And we note that at the time that this report was written, it was pending further clarification from the township attorney on the list of allowable minor automobile repair activities. So if the commission wanted to move forward with approval of those uses, recommend attaching this to the list of the potential uses and their limitations to any such approval. We also note a couple conditions that we would recommend to attach to the property. So that would be the restricted hours of operation. That would be detailing the maximum number of vehicles for sale that could be stored outside to 40, as shown that there is sufficient space on the plan for that. And a note to detail the replacement trees that must be provided. And then we note that this special land use does not constitute site plan approval, and that a separate application and that review process would need to transpire. So, happy to answer any questions, and if there's other questions on the use, Township Attorney Bennett is here as well.
Questions on that before we bring the applicant forward?
If I understood Attorney Bennett correctly, we're really being asked to approve a special land use not only for, or is it just the word for the use of a dealership? Does that constitute the sales approval?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so it is correctly written. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
May I offer a point? On what's on the screen up there, I would suggest that when it states, what she has up there is correct. It should be, the uses should be limited to automobile, commercial garage, routine maintenance, and minor repair, and specifically exclude automobile major repair or body shop from the allowable uses.
And major repair includes the transmission work and the engine work?
Major repair is somewhat vaguely stated. It states general repair and refinishing, engine rebuilding or reconditioning of motor vehicles, collision service, such as body, frame, or fender straightening and repair, overall painting and undercoating of automobiles, major overhauling of engines requiring the removal of engine cylinder head or crankcase pan, repairs to radiators requiring the removal thereof, or complete recapping or retreading of tires.
I thought at one point, wasn't the plan to fix wrecked cars and resell them?
If that is the plan, that would appear to fall under the definition of automobile major repair or body shop, and it's not eligible, that would not be an eligible special use for this property.
Right, that was my point, exactly.
Attorney Bennett, could you please repeat, you had said automobile, commercial garage, and routine minor repair, and excludes?
Automobile major repair or body shop. You might want to say is contemplated by section 36.2.14 of the zoning ordinance.
Can you repeat that? Can you restate that section?
36.2.14.
Thank you.
Let me verify that, please.
Oh, Laura, would this also need to include the part about auto sales?
Yes, that is the dealership reference.
I would feel better if it specifically said dealership with automotive sales and actually call out the word automotive sales, just so we're clear on what kind of dealership it is.
Okay.
Back to Bob's point, Attorney Bennett, I don't believe you were here in the past, but the applicant explained that I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm wrong in this, but part of his business model is to buy vehicles that are wrecked and to basically reassemble them through substituting parts from other cars and then selling them on site. So if I heard you right earlier, you said that falls under major automotive repair. So we really need to make clear tonight, that you understand what the applicant is proposing and that you guide us as to whether that falls under automotive garage and minor repair.
If he's gonna be rebuilding or reconditioning motor vehicles or doing any body work, that is not going to be a allowed use.
And maybe perhaps you should come up and then you can join in on this discussion because you know better than anyone else what you want to do.
My name is Mohammed Issa. I just want to clarify on that. This is not going to be a body shop, as I stated before. Any paint work, any straightening work, any frame pulling is going to be sent out for repair. Any parts that need to be painted will be sent out for repair. What may be done there is the removal and replacement of a panel, a trunk, a hood, but no bondo work, no paint work, no frame machine, none of that. Just to clarify for the attorney so he can make his decision. It was all in the list that I provided as well.
Which number would that be in your list?
I don't know, but it's on there somewhere.
Do you pass that down?
Would that be under 6?
That's 6 is interior, seat motors. I don't think that, we're not talking about.
No,
Number 6
6
is-
headlights, bumper,
Oh,
grill,
6, yeah.
fog
Oh,
lights.
I see, I was looking at,
Yeah, so number 6 is,
yeah.
but there will not be any paint work on site, no bondo work on site, no frame pulling on site, no fender straightening on site. Simply removal and replace. Anything that needs that, as I stated before, would be sent out somewhere else for repair or to get painted.
So this list of potential uses, this is your list, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So that list consists of everything I can imagine that I will be doing there.
Okay.
So if there's anything that I do that's not on that list, then I'm expecting a violation, correct?
Okay. And, excuse me, Attorney Bennett, so on item 8, no engine rebuilding and overhauling, and item 9, no overhaul and or rebuilding of transmission. Other than those two items, all of this complies with the commercial garage, routine and minor repairs?
On its face, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I would like to clarify that. Yeah, I will not be rebuilding engines at all. I will not be taking the cylinder head off, getting internal transmission as well. I will not be doing that at all. It's too sophisticated, first and foremost, and it's cheaper to just, buy a new car, to be honest, than rebuilding a motor.
I don't see on this list that where it says no painting. That's obviously a big consideration.
I don't know if it's on the list, but it should have been in the email, that there will be absolutely no paint work, no body work. I said it here on record several times, but it was probably in the email attached to the list. But I did submit that there will not be no paint work at all, no frame straightening. Everything I just stated was in the email.
This list?
Yeah. He's not, so you're not, just to repeat, you're not going to do any painting or what was the other item?
No painting, no bondo work, no frame straightening, no frame pulling. I think that covers it all, right?
Oh, can you repeat it one more time for us, thanks?
No paint work at all, no frame straightening, no frame pulling, no bonding work,
Is that gonna include no collision work?
no collision works. The only thing is remove and replacement of a panel.
So at one time, I think you were talking about, for lack of a better term, Frankensteining cars. You had, where you're taking parts off of close to or scrap cars and putting them on other cars and selling those?
Sure, I may be buying a car for parts because it's cheaper to buy a complete car for parts. Donating the parts off of that vehicle to the other vehicle, and then scrapping that vehicle. All of those cars will be, out of public view. They'll be meeting the,
So if you had vehicles that were half stripped or disassembled, where would those sit?
behind the barrier wall to comply with the ordinance. So even if it was just a regular auto repair shop, any wrecked vehicle in the ordinance or disabled vehicle needs to be behind that barrier wall, which is gonna get built behind the rear building anyway. So it's gonna meet that criteria regardless, whether it's just auto repair or a collision shop, those cars will be out of view from the public.
You can't do a collision shop.
No, I know, I'm saying for clarification, whether it was or not, those cars will still be behind the wall and it'll meet the ordinance. But I know I'm not gonna do a collision shop, it's not a collision shop at all. I myself don't do body work anyway, I'm a certified auto mechanic, not a body guy.
You have, saying that you're gonna have 40 vehicles there for sale. How many vehicles do you see behind the wall?
Maximum 40. The wall, I really don't know. Whatever parking spots there are, I still have to meet the criteria of the
Is there
parking
a time
spots.
frame that they would sit there?
I really don't know.
Would that be dependent on cars that are brought to you to,
Yeah, and it could be, customer vehicles as well. I'm gonna have all the customer vehicles behind the wall as well. Any vehicle that's in there for repair is gonna be behind the wall. How long is it gonna be? I can't say, I really don't know.
I guess the concern is that there are, half-stripped vehicles, like a junkyard, that you're slowly taking parts off of and putting on other cars, and that's really not consistent with what the intent of this is.
Sure, no, I understand. I mean, if you wanna put a time limit on per vehicle, I guess we can do that. But generally, once I donate the parts off the vehicle, I don't need it, so it'll be gone. But if you wanna put a time frame,
So when you buy a vehicle for parts, you take the parts off that you want to keep and you inventory them somewhere and you get rid of the body and the rest of it?
well, generally, I won't buy a car for the parts unless I have the car that I'm gonna fix first.
I see.
Then I buy the one that I need for parts, take everything off, and then dispose of it.
You're not buying on speculation that you might want that car because it's got a lot of marketable used parts on it?
No, not a junkyard.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting
Speculation
at.
never works, because if I ever buy one, I'll never find the donor car, believe me, it's happened in the past. So I don't do that. You buy the one you need first, then you buy the parts one.
other questions from the commission, from the applicant at this point? What we'll do, we don't have a public hearing, but I know all of you have come several times, and so we won't have a formal public hearing, but I'll open up a pseudo-public hearing. So again, you have 3 minutes to come forward to state your name and address if you wish to give it. Tell us what your thoughts are.
Hi, my name is Mary Ann Brancho, and I live at 42552 Gateway Drive. And so a couple things in terms of the wall. There is not a 10-foot wall around the perimeter. That wall is dilapidated, especially on the south end. I can stand there and see over it, and I'm 5'7". So I think that needs to be included in what needs to be done. That wall is far older than the subdivision has been there. The other thing is that we all received our property assessments. The value of my condo has gone down. And I have to believe it is due to that auto body shop. I talked to my realtor and asked her if other properties have gone down in value in Plymouth Township, and she told me no. That because of the shortage of homes, no, property values are not decreasing, but mine has. And I'm greatly upset by that. That property is such an eyesore. The trees, 8-foot trees are not going to block the view. The 40 cars that are going to be parked in the back are going to be all in our view. The cars that are sitting there now, that's what's brought there. They're all cars that have been in auto accidents, and they just sit there. It's awful. It's awful what we have to look at every day. And I truly believe that that is what has decreased all of our property values. So how many years is this going to go on when our property values continue to decrease? I guess that's what I have to say. And it is major body work that is going on there. Do either of you want to say something?
Well, no, you'll have to come up and give us your name because our meetings are recorded. So I don't know if they have the YouTube working today or not, but.
The mics can't pick up people
Right.
in the audience.
Hello, my name is Ruth Gingell. I live at 42564 Gateway Drive. It's not basically just the repair shop. There is that shell of a gas station. It's not even, a car wash. It's just cinder block. He has piled cars upon cars in the unit that looks like garbage. And that's another view that we get. There are tow trucks dropping off cars all hours of the night. Not during those lovely business hours, all hours of the night, which is very loud, wakes you up from a sleep, dropping off a car. There were beautiful trees there before he purchased the property, along both the east side and the south side. 50-foot, 40-foot trees, beautiful trees that he tore out for no reason. So and to hear that he wants to replace them with 8-foot trees that are gonna take, 15, 20 years to develop? That just doesn't seem right when that's what we're looking at. And as far as car sales go, he just said that that's not supposed to, it wasn't designed to be a car dealership. There's a difference between a used car lot and a car dealership. That is not a car dealership. I don't understand how this has gone on this far. It is a true eyesore.
Anyone else?
Patricia Graubarger, 42768 Gateway Drive. Oh, I will write that. Yes, it truly is an eyesore, and you have to admit that, Mohammed. It is an eyesore of gargantuan proportions. So, in all of these words and talking, are those buildings going to be improved? What's going to happen with that terrible car wash? Are we just going to slap some doors on it and say, it's good enough? How about the front building? First building you see as you turn into Plymouth Township. Is that going to be improved, or are you just going to slap a coat of paint on it and say that looks
Direct
great?
your comments to the commission, not to the applicant, please.
So what is really going to be done with that? And we need a lot more than 8-foot trees, as has been suggested. We need a higher wall. We absolutely need a higher wall. And one of my main concerns is light pollution. I just do not want lights on at a used car lot behind my home all night long. But will lights be staying on all night? Because are you worried about burglaries? Could there be something going on there? Stolen cars happening? So what are we going to do with light pollution? Sound pollution? It needs to be improved, and we really need to see what's really going to happen to this site. Are those buildings going to be improved so we're not looking at something that's truly looks like they should be just demolished and knocked down? So thank you.
Thank you.
Got a long name.
Anyone else? Okay. So, Mohammed, I know you covered this in your previous visits with us. Do you want to explain again what you plan to do with the buildings?
Sure. I'd like to clarify, I bought the property looking like that, so I did not make it look like an eyesore. My intention was to buy it and to rebuild the rear building and reface the front one, not with just a coat of paint, but re-brick it in the front. So the plans, I don't know if you still have the plans, but the rear building is gonna be totally demolished and rebuilt with cinder block, but I think it's called C or D, I don't know what it is, but the split face D. So it's not a solid cinder block, it's like a textured cinder block, so the face will be better. And the front building will be re-bricked to match the color of the rear building. So basically, both buildings are gonna be brand new. The front one is not gonna get tore down and rebuilt, but refaced to look new. The rear building will be rebuilt to be brand new. Can I answer some of the neighbors' comments?
Well, there's a concern. I took some notes, and if you can think of anything else that I may not have taken notes on.
Sure.
That the tow trucks. So I would imagine you do have tow trucks coming in, and are there certain hours that they are limited to from your security
Yes.
cameras, or how does that whole work?
Currently, I don't have security cameras, but I'm gonna put some up. But the towing is 9 to 6. I never have cars come in after hours or before that. And as a matter of fact, I'm not even open for business, and I haven't been open for business since I bought the place for 2 years. So when they tell me there's tow trucks dropping off cars all through the night and constantly, I haven't had a car delivery in over a month over there. Maybe 3 weeks ago was the last car delivery, and the cars are not smashed or totaled. I don't know if any of you drive by the property at all. There are no totaled vehicles outside. If I had any cars with damage on them, they'd be inside the front building. Now, I know the prior time I came, the neighbor provided pictures of the 2 cars in the stall and the car wash stall, 1 stall, but I don't have any vehicles in any of the stalls, and I haven't for several months. So I'm not saying the neighbors are lying or anything, but I think they're over-exaggerating, to be honest, a little. But my intention was to buy this, make it look good, rebuild it, and turn it into used car sales and auto repair. Correct.
And Ms. Hull, you spoke earlier on your report about the lights. So if this were developed in, let's say, a restaurant, for example, they could put 20-foot high lights. Did I remember that correctly? And currently has 17 feet?
Correct, pole lights.
Pole lights, right.
Yes, and so the applicant is proposing only building-mounted lights. As a special land use, you could also attach a condition of when the lights could be on, or after non-business hours, they must be dimmed to 50%, and then the specific illumination would be determined during the site plan review process. I think it's important to note, and I probably should have said this at the beginning, that since this requires a special land use, the applicant can't receive building department approvals to make improvements to the site until the special land use is resolved. So while they do have plans to improve the building and do landscaping and improve the frontage, those cannot be approved by the township's building department until this issue is resolved. So the site will continue to remain as is because he does not have permission.
Right.
Yeah, we're at a holding pattern with that.
And the wall height is, current wall is how high?
6 feet, and that's what the zoning ordinance prescribes. That's why the wall was constructed to that height originally.
Can we require higher?
You could, you can see the wall is capped and has a stone finish on it. So that would be, I think, a question for Attorney Bennett, if what would be a reasonable request, since there is an existing wall that meets code, to improve that.
Well, I heard one of the residents, one of the neighbors next door, say that you can see over the wall. And I know she's not 6 foot tall, so.
Yeah. Can I answer that? I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
So I went down Gateway Drive to see as well, and she's right. When you go down Gateway Drive and you go to the very back where they built last homes, I guess, I believe the slope of the street gets higher. So when you're back there, you're higher than this property, so you do see. Now, if you need me to increase the wall, as long as the engineer thinks I can add bricks to the current wall, so I'm not building a whole new wall, and we reduce some of the trees, then I'm not opposed to that. I can go 10 feet if the city approves it.
Who's
You also
responsible
tore out
for
a
that?
lot of,
No,
I'm
excuse me.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, you tore out a lot of very tall trees. What is your intent? Just to replace with 8-foot trees? I mean, you heard the residents again speak that the big issue is eyesore, right?
Sure.
It's an issue for you. That's why you want to improve it.
Correct.
When you see it, it looks like an eyesore. So how are we going to make it so it's not an eyesore and affecting the value of their property? I think that's a legitimate concern on their part.
Correct. Let me address that. So only one home was affected from the trees that were being cut, and I respect that and I understand. That's the one that's directly to my east. And I was gonna recover where they can see from that home for the trees I cut down. As far as all the homes on my south side, which is the majority of the homes, all of the homes, there were never any trees on my side of the wall that were cut down. I mean, we addressed this several times. But I will plant the trees according to the site plan, and my engineer will get with the township planners and they'll make a sound site plan. But if a 10-foot wall will suffice, I'm not opposed to that.
Whose wall is it?
Yeah,
Who put that wall in?
The wall is on the Gateway's property.
What property is the one?
The Gateway's
Condos.
condo?
The HOA owns the wall?
No, not the trees, the wall.
The wall.
Wall we're talking about.
I just want to be clear, the pictures we see up here are before the trees were removed.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear. There's virtually no trees now on the eastern boundary there, facing that home to the right.
Correct. So that home to the right is the only home that was affected.
All of those homes are affected, because they
Okay.
can all see directly into that tire and auto place.
Yeah, we've made that point, but we want to try to get to some solutions here.
So Laura, it would be the homeowners association responsibility to
Correct.
increase the height of the wall? Or
Or have an agreement with the property owner if he's amenable to.
How do you increase the height of that wall without replacing it?
It's beautiful. It's a nice wall.
That is a nice wall. It's all capped, all that would have to be taken off. And the brick may or may not match.
how would they do that?
Yeah.
Hard.
That's not an easy job.
Yeah, because once you start building on top of that, realizing that the caps would have to come off, but once you start building on top, it looks like it's only like 2 brick wide. Is that what it is?
That is why, yeah, it's not.
Is that the weight of it, and it'll start pushing the foundation away. So basically, I don't think there's a brick solution to the top of it, unless you rebuild the whole wall.
Yeah, that's why I said if my engineer can make it happen. I'm not opposed to it. But I don't know. I'm not an engineer, so I don't know how high you could go. Or if it's structurally
Run along the back.
strong enough to support
Yeah.
anymore.
And as far as light
satellite, you
pollution,
can
the
see it.
concern about light pollution, you're gonna have
It runs, it goes
wall-mounted
here,
lights.
here,
And
here.
this is beyond the scope of what we're meeting here for today, because that's more of a site plan
Sure.
review.
Surrounds the entire
I would
condo,
imagine
so
they would
condo
be shielded
unit
so that that light just
goes all the
shines
way
on your
around.
property and not flow out.
Should be, yeah. I think there's preliminaries on the site plan that you have. But I'm sure the engineer and the
on this side.
towning planner can solve that issue.
Right.
Again, I'm not worried about theft or anything. So as long as there's a little bit of lighting, I'm not too worried.
I think because of the residents' concern about the tow trucks, but he says it's only when he's open. I think that if there were to be approval for a special land use, that we limit the hours that the tow trucks can come in to deliver the vehicles. So,
Limit to business hours?
Yeah, I would say the business hours.
Laura, I mean, we've had this at least 3 times on the agenda, maybe 4, and we continue to hear a lot of skepticism from the residents of Gateway about delivering on the promises. What happens if they don't proceed as has been promised here? I mean, what ultimate enforcement mechanism do we have as a planning commission, as a township, to make sure that these promises are actually delivered?
I need to check the ordinance as far as the special land use.
Would you
But
like me to field that one, Laura?
yep.
Section 2.7.7 of the zoning ordinance provides that approval of a special land use may be revoked by the planning commission upon a determination that the use has not been improved, constructed, or maintained in compliance with this ordinance, approved permits, site plans, or conditions of approval. Basically, you would have to grant the property owner a public hearing with notice and inform the property owner of the violations, and then give the property owner a chance to respond, and then planning commission would have the sole decision on whether or not to revoke the special use.
And then they would be shut down if they were revoked?
Yes. The special use would be revoked, and the applicant or property owner could not continue with the special use.
Thank you.
Just looking something else up here to answer a question that I had.
So Attorney Bennett, that would mean that the applicant could not operate the type of business that he's applying to operate?
If the special use.
If it was revoked.
If the special use approval is revoked, he could not continue that business.
So Laura, again, looking at what could potentially go in there if it wasn't the auto repair, I'm looking at these setbacks, so let's just use
section
the, I'm on page 7.
Do you know what section of the zoning ordinance that would be in?
No, I'm not talking about the zoning ordinance. Well, I'm talking about the setbacks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm talking about the setbacks. I'm trying to look at the worst-case scenario. If we didn't approve this and something else came in, then the other permitted use would have fewer setbacks, fewer front feet of setbacks than what is currently there.
Correct.
It could also be 2 stories and have the lighting that you mentioned, right, Laura?
Correct.
So it could be a restaurant serving alcohol that's open till 2 in the morning on the weekends.
Not serving alcohol, though,
Oh, okay.
but it could be a restaurant.
I thought it said it could serve alcohol.
sales.
In
What
here,
section are all the permitted uses?
under permitted uses.
Yeah,
Page 5.
Article
Is it
13.
permitted by right read?
Yeah, it
On
says,
page 5.
on page 5, it says retail establishments, drugstores, pharmacies, banks,
With-
offices, restaurants with the service of alcohol.
Yeah, with the service of alcohol.
Okay.
And also if it's not improved, if nothing does happen, it's just going to continue to sit as an eyesore.
May I speak? I'm sorry. If I understood your question correctly, and that's why the attorney said you can revoke it. You're saying, who's to say, if you approve this, that I don't rebuild the building and do as I'm saying, right? Well, in the condition I sent to Laura, I said that I will not apply for the dealer license because the township would have to sign the zoning approval for it, for me to get it from the state. I will not apply for that until after the building is built, the trees are planted, and the front building is refaced. So that would be my guarantee. I will not apply for the license until it's done.
Understood.
And it's in the email.
Pardon?
It's in the email to Laura. Or to Nani, I don't know, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the site plan process would need to be finished regardless.
Right.
And then the use could, the certificate of occupancy could be granted.
So is that saying that the special use for the dealership would not be granted until after certificate of occupancy?
I mean, yes, but it's with any use. He won't be able to use the property until he
Okay.
has the C of O.
Okay, so it doesn't need to be in any motion. Okay.
Other thoughts from the commission?
I don't know that I think we've addressed a lot of these concerns. I don't know that we've addressed the concern about the size of the trees in increasing the height of the wall.
Well, increasing the height of the wall would require some kind of cooperative agreement between the applicant and the homeowner association, because they're the ones that own the wall. And I don't believe, even from one of our more knowledgeable commissioners, that brick will be possible.
I doubt that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Putting aside the wall, though, the trees, I'm inclined to want you to put in more mature trees than just 8 foot, considering that there were such tall trees in the back before there, at least in the back part. I mean, I feel like that would be a reasonable thing to, something higher than that wall, and certainly higher than 8 feet.
Sure, I don't know the price of trees. I was gonna get to all that
Yeah.
when I got to the site plan review with my engineer. But I'm not opposed to that as long as it's affordable. I can't
Sure, I
plant
understand.
$100,000 worth of trees. So,
Laura, is it too early to ask if wherever he's going to plant these trees, would that space be irrigated?
No, I think you would need to have irrigation there.
That would increase the likelihood that they would survive.
Yes, there's a reason that the ordinance requires smaller trees, right, is because they're more apt to take root and to succeed in growth. It's harder to move a more mature tree. The chances of success are less. So I think the ordinance tries to mitigate that, but you could possibly add some in there. The east property line, where the wall, because of the grade, may be slightly lower, is there's a 20-foot plus green belt that's provided back there. So there is substantial planting space for vegetation. A nice clumping, a nice staggering effect of vegetation, not just a singular row, right? So there would be overlap. There's space for overlap.
I would echo your sentiment about the larger trees. While I like larger trees, I myself lost some trees when we had the ice storm a year or so ago, and the landscaper told me to replace them with taller trees. There's less likelihood of them to survive than with the smaller trees. So you get the advantage of the screening, but it may not take.
Yeah, my father-in-law was a tree farmer, and he said, it takes 3 full years, and by then a smaller tree will catch up to a bigger tree because it has to reestablish its roots.
Not
Really?
as much in
That's
shock as a.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? If not, are we ready for a motion? You've been taking excellent notes.
Mr. Chairman, I recommend we grant special land use approval for PC number 2466, Serafund Automotive at 14760 Northville Road for the use of a dealership and minor automobile repair activities that are limited to automotive commercial garage and routine and minor repairs, and excludes major repairs or body shop as listed in section 36.2.14, and specifically, the list of potential uses as presented by the applicant are permitted, and not permitted are painting, frame straightening, frame pulling, body work, and based on compliance with section 2.7 of the zoning ordinance, as detailed in the planning report letter dated February 29th, 2024, and subject to the following items detailed on a revised special land use concept plan that apply conditions to the property and use, that the addition of a note to detail the restricted hours of operation, Monday through Sunday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., the addition of a note to detail the maximum number of operable vehicles which may be stored outdoors at 40 total, addition of a note to detail that replacement trees for those trees that were prematurely removed from the site will be provided during the site plan review process, and that tow trucks are limited to business hours.
And about the lighting, do we want to reduce the lighting after a certain time?
Do we do that now, Laura, or do we do that on site plan?
Site plan?
Yeah, I would list that as a condition of approval now. After business hours, lighting must be dimmed at 50% or reduced.
Okay, lighting must, and that lighting outside of business hours must be reduced to 50%.
And at the beginning, you mentioned the uses provided by the applicant, but perhaps you should say herewith noted, and then the paper that he'd given us with those uses really becomes part of that motion.
Okay. And that the list of potential uses be included in the motion, in the list?
Yeah,
In the minutes?
well, whatever, yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to phrase it, but
Right. Well, I
don't you think,
referenced it.
Laura, that we should attach? Yeah,
Okay, and that the list of potential uses will be attached.
yep. Is there support?
Support. Roll call, Dennis.
Yeah, well, is there any further discussion? Okay, well then let's take a roll call vote. So yes means that he has his approval and no means he doesn't have it.
Commissioner Berry?
Yes.
Treasurer Dorchevitz?
Yes.
Commissioner Barberina?
Yes.
Commissioner Cebulski?
Yes,
Commissioner Griegers, yes. Commissioner Boyd?
Yes.
And Commissioner Ledewick?
Yes.
okay. That's it. We can move on to the next step.
Yes, I'll get with my engineers for the site plan. Thank you very much.
Good luck. I just want to say, it's really important that you deliver on your commitments on this.
I'm sorry?
It's just really important that you do deliver on all of your commitments.
100%.
Thank you, sir.
I bought this place to build it for my family, so 100%.
And we do appreciate you coming in. I know it's been a long journey, and I think the commission has taken all the comments stated today and in the past very seriously. We try to work out all the concerns as far as we can, given, restrictions and direction that is provided to us by the ordinance. So we have to respect both your rights, but also the property owner rights as well. So thanks again for coming. Okay. Well, we're going to do.
Okay.
So now the next thing on the agenda is just a discussion of these dates. Did you want to lead us through that discussion, Laura?
Yes, if I could, Trustee Dershowitz, if I could just share my screen, got a couple of slides,
Sure.
just some information I'd like to show folks and give a little bit of background on the.
Are you plugged in?
They're in them.
It's looking really nice, isn't it?
That corner's gonna look so much nicer when they get the dentist office done.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So as we begin talking about the master plan, I just wanted to give a little bit of background and kind of frame the conversation. So the township and the planning commission is granted the authority to develop a master plan and maintain a master plan through the state enabling acts. And it is the responsibility of Plymouth Township to maintain the master plan. It's something that needs to at least be reviewed every 5 years. That's a state requirement. And the state provides a very detailed process on how the master plan must be amended, updated, adopted, and the different steps that are required. And that includes steps for public engagement and notification requirements. And just to distinguish between the two, the master plan, right, is the expression of the community's direction, its roadmap moving forward. This is in contrast to the zoning ordinance, which we just talked about in length, all the different requirements that apply to a specific property. So the master plan is not the law, it's the guidebook for how the community intends to develop based on the conditions that are known at the time and the public input that's provided at the time. It looks to identify existing trends and conditions, set goals, and provide recommendations. Whereas the zoning ordinance, right, this is the local law. It divides the community into different zoning districts and regulates the uses, the structures, the landscaping, parking, design. So when we talk about the master plan and we're talking about the existing land use and the future land use map, those maps are going to be different than the zoning map that's adopted that says what you can do today on the ground, right? Those are different items for consideration. But the master plan does have a lot of maps that describes how the community is today and where it's going in the future. So that's just to kind of set the stage a little bit about why a master plan is important and why the township must go through the exercise of maintaining and adopting a current plan. Conditions do change. Land uses do change. Technology impacts land uses and how we plan. Demographics change. So looking...
A question on that. Because a lot of times people look to the master plan from 2015, but if you're renewing it periodically, you're essentially, I don't know if I want to use the word binding, but binding a future board and a future commission that may not agree with the goals of that master plan because the winds have shifted.
Yes, there's definitely some of that climate that's in a master plan when it's adopted. But a master plan should really stand more, it should be more than that. And when there is, a significant change, like right after a lot of communities were going through COVID, we saw that many of them did amendments to their master plan, right, to address specific things. So it's not something that has to wait every 5 years. It's not something that can't be changed, quicker than that. If there are necessary revisions, because the master plan acknowledges, right, that the community is going to change, that change is inevitable, and that it needs to be looked at. We recommend that communities take a look through their planning commission at their master plan every year, not to necessarily update it, but to do a check-in and see, is this still applicable? Are these still relevant? Is there anything that needs to be addressed? Have we seen changes in the development world or preferences in the community?
Because horses were replaced with cars.
Yep, and the master plan isn't able to contemplate everything, right? It's the best plan that the community can put in place based on the information that it knows at that time. But it should be flexible enough to provide some guidance and direction with the goals and objectives to help frame situations and allow the appointed and elected officials to make the best decisions possible. So for the timeline, since there's a draft master plan out there, it needs to be updated, especially in regards to demographics and some of the land use changes that have occurred. So some of the maps need to be updated. There's things in there that talk about things that the Environmental Leadership Commission have done, for instance, or the Historic District recommendations, and those have already been implemented. So it definitely warrants revisions. So what I'm hoping that we can kind of pin down today is a tentative schedule for study sessions over the next couple months. Right now, the township administration has this room on hold for those dates, but I'd love to lock those in so we can get them on the calendar and we can plan for those dates. So today I'd like to review the schedule that was in your packets, confirm those meetings, and then the priority topic discussions. Then the next box there, the light blue one, would be discussing that draft content through the months of April and October. We'd be reviewing that draft content, making any revisions as necessary that are agreed upon. Once the draft is actually complete, once we've gone through those different chapters and agreed that this is the most up-to-date information as possible, then what happens is the state requires a 63-day public review comment period. And this is where the draft plan is finalized. It's made available for public review. It's placed on display at the township, on the township's website, at any community facilities such as the Friendship Station. It's also sent to all neighboring jurisdictions, so all the surrounding townships, the city of Plymouth, Livonia, and any utility agencies that are within the township. So MDOT, Wayne County, CSX, the utility providers, DTE and consumers, all those different intergovernmental agencies are provided with notice and a copy of the plan. And they have a responsibility and an opportunity to comment in that 63 days. Then, once we have all those comments that are tracked, any input that happens within the 2.5 months, that gets brought back to the Planning Commission for your consideration. You look at all those changes, decide if you'd like to make changes to the draft based on that feedback, and then you would schedule a public hearing where then the final draft would be published for display and comment. You would hold that here. You could adopt the master plan that same evening if you were ready to move forward with it. We'll have to see once we get to that point. But that could be 2 separate meetings depending on the feedback. And then in the township, the township board has the final approval, so they also must hold a meeting and adopt by resolution the master plan. So those are kind of the next steps. You can see that this is a longer process. It's not something that just is just going to be discussed tonight and then put out for comment. And I hope that the schedule that we've provided with some potential study session dates to really focus on these topics will kind of allow us to brainstorm, to discuss alternatives, to talk about new findings and planning related to some of these topics, and to hear from the community. There's even the potential, I think, the June 5th meeting, maybe it's regarding sustainability. That might be a nice time to invite the ELC to join the Planning Commission and have a discussion. So just trying to collaborate as much as possible with other groups. Maybe the Historic District Commission would be interested as well to participate in any of these sessions. So looking tonight for your feedback on these meetings, I know that the survey that folks took about what meetings they could attend, June 5th is the lighter meeting of the group. So we could look at not holding that one and trying to combine that with transportation in August and invite the ELC. But I'd like to try to lock this in so that we can commit to this timeline, we can advertise it, the public can know if they'd like to make comment about any of these topics, that would be, appropriate time. But also understanding that this 63-day review period, when the draft is actually finished and published, that is the most important time for public comment because you're seeing everything together as opposed to piecemeal.
Laura, is the public invited to the study sessions?
Yes, all study sessions are open meetings to the public.
And are they able to make comments during those?
Yep, just the regular public comments that we have on the agenda.
Okay.
Laura, I have a question. The future land use plan portion isn't until September. Is there any way we could, it just seems so important given the applications that we've had in the last 18 months or so. There've been so many like conditional rezoning, special land uses. It seems like that's a really important topic that we need to really like delve into and think about and discuss what we want certain areas of the township to look like. Could that be earlier instead of at the end?
It could. It's your preference on how the chapters and the priority discussion topics would be addressed. I think some of these do build on each other.
Follow number 2. Well,
I think Tim had some comments.
Yeah, Laura, as you know, I made a motion, I think maybe back in November meeting, that I wanted to brief the Planning Commission on the age-friendly assessment paper and some of my comments and concerns about that, specifically because some of those recommendations also aligned with recommendations from the Michigan Association of Planners, and I believe they highlight issues that we should be aware of and potentially address during this process. So I would like to respectfully request that you give me time on the April 10th agenda to take the group through that. I'll try to limit it to 15 minutes. Probably not a discussion, but it would set the awareness, and then the discussion of the various topics would take place in line with your agenda that you have on the screen.
I think that if there's any commissioners that feel strongly about any of these topics or their background lends to expertise, and you'd like to use this as an opportunity to share with the commission some thoughts or educational materials, that would be great.
Can we specifically put my presentation on the April 10th agenda?
Yes, under mixed-use developments, or did you want to talk about housing and neighborhoods first?
It's just the broad, there's about 4 topics that are in that age-friendly assessment that I believe are relevant to our development of this plan.
Yep, if the commission is fine with that, then we could add it to April 10th.
I think that was a yes.
Okay, sounds good.
What do we want to move future land use up? Or, I know you said they build on each other, and I would defer to you, Laura, on your expertise in that, knowing how the process is going to go.
They do build on each other. I guess there's also the consideration of, is it something you'd like to discuss when all 7, when you have the full commission available? That would be August 4th, 14th.
I mean, since we're not going to put a draft together, do you see what I mean? That it might not be as important to move it up, since nothing's going to be finalized anyway? And as Laura says, if they build on each other?
Like, I guess just so we have ample time, not just one meeting to discuss, there's maybe 10 or 14 different areas of the township that I think we really need to think about what it should look like in the future.
Should we have 2 meetings that focus on that?
We could try to weave in some of that throughout, so it's not just all at once.
Right, or else where it's applicable as we go through this. Like mixed-use developments, there's a couple areas of the township that we've had applications for in the past that it would be relevant to talk about.
Yeah.
Like that idea.
To weave it
sort of
throughout?
Kind of weave it in as we,
Go together.
with each topic where it's
Existing, yeah,
applicable,
future.
and then keep it at September 4th for the future land use plan.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a good plan forward. We can weave it into the different subjects and then look at it all together.
So Laura, will you be, as we have these meetings, will you be, as we move along, you'll be drafting the appropriate sections of the master plan? And then will we see them in piecemeal settings or all at once?
Yeah, so like if we were talking about the mixed-use developments for April 10th, then it would be Chapter 2, existing land use patterns, and you would receive a regular packet just like you normally do on the Friday. It will be on the website. I'd like to try to keep, I know we have a lot of applications and stuff on our regular meetings, but it would be nice to try to keep these just as study session meetings where no action items are taken. These are just discussions. So we wouldn't have any business like we did today. It wouldn't be a regular meeting. And we can just devote the time.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. And then will you be at each of these meetings, Laura?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. For the June 5th meeting, does the commission still want to move forward with that because of the 5 members?
I'd like to attend all the meetings, and that's the one meeting I can't attend, but if everyone else would like to still have the meeting, I understand.
I doubt I will be there.
There's actually a slight possibility, even though I said yes, that my daughter's due to have a baby in the end of May.
What a lousy excuse.
I know, right?
Pretty important.
Sorry. Has to wait till after the master plan meeting. But I don't know, I don't know if, how that goes. It could be middle of May, so.
It could be the May 8th?
It could be the May 8th meeting.
Well, if you wanted to just still keep June 5th as a tentative and invite the ELC, that might be okay for a smaller discussion.
Yeah.
And then those results could just be shared with everyone.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
that
let's keep
still
it
fine
just
with
in case.
Okay.
Things could change.
So you'll let the members of the ELC, okay.
Yes, I think they would be very excited to work together on this. And then September 4th, right, is right after Labor Day, so I just wanted to raise awareness of that day as well.
What day of the week is that? Is it Tuesday?
Wednesday.
I think these
That's
are
okay.
typically the Wednesdays.
That's fine. I don't.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
My only other comment, Laura, would be, is there a way that we can get a copy of your other slides that have the process?
Oh, yeah, yep, I can email this out.
That would be great. Because that's nice and
Really helpful,
very helpful.
yeah.
I'm wondering if that shouldn't be put on the website somehow. So if people come to the website and they're interested in coming to these meetings,
Oh, this one?
and maybe even this schedule and when the topics would be discussed. Because, somebody or some group may appreciate learning about transportation, but they're not interested in housing.
Right. Okay, yep, we could modify this. Doesn't need all the information. Okay, that sounds like a plan. We'll get those on the website and get this meeting room secured and plan on that. Do you have questions about the process? I think everyone has a copy, a printed copy of the master plan, correct, that we made earlier this year? If you,
This one here?
yes, if you need one still, let me know. And we'll get one made.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right. Well, there are a number of people here. I'm not sure if you came for this topic, but it's an agenda item, and I said earlier, non-agenda items, but since you've all come out and sat patiently through our meeting, if anyone here wishes to address anything to the commission, you have 3 minutes.
My name's Wendy Harless, and I'm here representing my family's property at 8959 Lily Road. Back, if you will recall, the January 29th meeting, there was a gentleman here, and I didn't catch his name, but with regards to the Spars property, his comment was, I don't understand why you would buy a piece of property that the zoning does not conform to what it is you would like to do there to conduct business. It's because of this 2025 master plan. Developers look at this future land use map. And so we are here to respectfully ask that you please reconsider changing the future land use map, which currently shows R1 residential with office potentially along Joy. But you've got mixed-use development, not just for the Spars property, for 8925 Lily, which they would like to redevelop. For my family's home, it's denoted as mixed-use development. Please remove that. The property all along the east side of Lily, between Joy and Ann Arbor Road, would change to mixed-use development. All of that would increase density and increase traffic. But with regards to my own property, developers look at this and they call us. They're calling my 80-year-old dad, for crying out loud. They show up at your doorstep, knock on your door. Hey, would you like to sell? I get text messages, I get emails. This is a single-family residence. It's been a single-family residence literally for 100 years. Our house was built in 1924. It's not going to change, but you putting potential mixed-use development on my house just drives developers right to me. And it's a huge waste of my time. So I would respectfully like you to ask you to please reconsider. Thank you.
Okay.
Can you tell us again exactly where you live relative to the Spurs property?
It's my dad currently lives there. It's 8959 Lily Road. So it's directly north of the proposed development that Spars is proposing. So they have the two houses that were the Spars family's homes, but they also bought the Sweagles residence, which is 8925, which is right next door to our property.
Does your property have those beehives in the back?
My dad's a beekeeper,
Okay.
yes,
All right.
that's my dad.
Okay, gotcha. This is, just as a comment to the commission, this is the kind of, I just want to make sure when we do our master plan that we keep in mind that things like this addendum that was put in the 2015 plan, they really do have an impact on how the township is developed. So this is a real world example of why it's so important that we be as precise as we can on the master plan.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Okay,
I'm Sharon Phillips, and our property runs right alongside her father's. So of course, I was very concerned too when I saw the master plan. And I guess help me understand how the township can just take homes away from people who have lived there over 40 years.
Well, they wouldn't do
We
that.
can't do that.
I mean,
Okay,
It's-
good.
It's if the property were sold. Right?
What'd you say?
It's as if, it's when the property is sold.
Right.
If the property is sold.
If it's sold.
If
You
it's
can't,
sold.
can't
Pardon
just
me?
take somebody's
If
You
property.
can't take anybody's property, it's if it gets sold.
Okay, okay, if they sell it. Okay,
Yeah, the Constitution prohibits taking of property,
okay.
private
I
property.
can sleep at night now.
okay.
And another thing is, I almost feel when I looked at the map, I feel like the east side of the township is being discriminated against for mixed use. I saw nothing of that turquoise color on the west side. And I know the lower housing is on the east side, and I just hope that that's taken into consideration. I don't know if there's any vacant lands or whatever on the west side, but I almost felt discriminated against. It's up and down the Lily corridor. So I would really appreciate if you look at that too.
That's where the commercial zones are.
Pardon
Those are
me?
That's where the commercial districts are along Ann Arbor Road corridor.
But you're talking about Lily Road.
Yeah, Lily, and there's also residential, so that's, and, you know, we got concerned when we saw that turquoise color over so many housing projects or properties.
Well, I think the township has been, maybe may or may not agree, trying to improve the lot, if you will, of the various districts in the township. Gateways, the folks that were here earlier, is a prime example of that, because that area frankly was a little bit down in the tooth, you might say, and they put a very nice development there with the condos. We're limited of what we can do and what developers, who's willing to come up and take that financial risk to put the development in that the township would prefer. So, we're limited in what we can do, but we do try to encourage people to, where there's property available, to put something in better than what's there now.
I'd also like to mention, there's a large plot of land. It's north of North Territorial and west of M14. It's vacant now, and it is in the master plan, high-density residential. That's the designation for that property. So that is very much in the far western part of Plymouth Township. So, whether that gets developed that way or not, you can't say, but that's what the master plan calls for in that area.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Gordon Bowman. I live at 9,000 North Lily Road. I live across the street. I live on the east side, just north of Joy. And I just came up to echo the same comments that Wendy spoke about. And that is, we lived in our property for 49 years, and I want to keep it that way. And I don't think that, I'm not exactly sure if my property and the property north or south of my property is zoned mixed use or multi-use, but I'd like to keep it the same. I mean, I have a dead field next to me, and I would welcome a resident or residences, but not multi-residences, because I feel that it would just different feel. But anyway, I wanted to echo the sentiment that Wendy spoke about.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Laura, is the SPARS on the agenda for March 27th at this point? Okay.
Hi, I'm Christy. I live at 9001 North Lily, just north of Wendy Harless's home. When we purchased our house about 4 years ago, the area was residential. And I have a small child who goes to school at Smith Elementary, and we thought we were buying into a neighborhood. We were shocked to see the signs and get the notices that property so close to our house was going to be changed potentially to commercial. And I think the commercial word is what's really holding a lot of us back from being supportive of such changes. It's just really scary to think that anything from a restaurant to an alcohol serving business or a bank or drive-through can be put on that property. I know the PUD might limit that now, but if the property sells in the future, we don't know what we're going to be living next to. Looking at some of the land use maps, it looks like commercial property is kind of limited to the Ann Arbor Road corridor, and then some areas off of Beck and 5 Mile. Not so much of that is bordered to residential property. So why are we expected to live next to commercial property when that's traditionally near Ann Arbor Road and Beck and 5 Mile area? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Did you finish what you wanted to tell us? Okay. I'm going to ask Tim Boyd to tell us about some communications that he's had regarding Salem Springs.
Thank you. So I think some of you are aware of the Salem Springs development that's been proposed. I wrote a letter to the Mr. Tom Brown, who's the environmental Eagle, it's called, which is the Department of Energy, Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, indicating my opposition to this application. There will be a public hearing on April 4th. It'll be at the Northridge Church. And basically, this will involve the application by Salem Township and Shostak to erect a water waste treatment plant directly across from the western terminus of Powell Road. So basically, it's at the northwest corner of Napier and M14, facing directly to that subdivision that's right on the corner there. If this waste treatment plant is approved, they would be discharging 800,000 gallons of treated water a day into Fellows Creek. Fellows Creek runs right through the center of Country Club Estates, just as a point of reference. This would support a development of 550 homes, condos, townhouses, and apartments that would be west of Napier, north of Joy, and east of Godfredson. But in fact, the actual area that was designated by Salem Township for this development is actually larger than that. It goes further west, it goes all the way north to North Territorial, up by Carl's Cabin, and then further west. And it includes all kinds of residential, including along the northern part, a number of multifamily developments. The point of this letter is to raise the idea, or raise the point that there's been a long-held goal in urban planning to avoid having major municipalities like Ann Arbor and Detroit grow together into one homogeneous area. And the word that was used for the longest time is greenbelt. They want to maintain a greenbelt separation. And Salem Township and Superior Township were serving that function, in part by Salem Township requiring 2-acre residential zoning with wells and septic systems. And this plan, if it was approved, would completely eliminate that for that quadrant of land in far southeast, northeast Salem Township, and would go a long way toward destroying the green belt that's been established. And oh, by the way, the far western Plymouth Township was also planned for this green belt type of low density development as typified by Country Club Estates, where there's very large lots. So my point was I'm sure that the Eagle office is getting many communications from our homeowners and from the Environmental Leadership Commission about the implications of this wastewater going into Fellows Creek and into our watershed of Southeast Michigan. But I also wanted to point out that this would fundamentally change this idea of having this green belt between Ann Arbor and Plymouth and to the east. So I explained the green belt approach in this letter. I talk about how this would fundamentally change that. And at the bottom of page 2, I mentioned some summary points as to why this should be rejected. Now, I did hear back from one of our state representatives, and he indicated that Eagle in this application will probably not be receptive to arguments about how this will affect the lifestyle of Plymouth Township and the more the zoning, the kind of the planning implications. They're just focused on the water issue. But I believe that is fundamentally in error. I believe that is not taking the broad picture approach, which we look to Eagle to do. I also, at the end of his response, he suggests that we need to be prepared to offer alternatives to Salem Township, which of course implies to me that they would want to try to connect to the Plymouth Township sewer system, which the Township Board has already indicated they will not support that. So,
I'm not sure that that's an accurate statement.
okay,
What was, sorry to interrupt you, but what
No, go
was
ahead.
voted on was whether it would require a supermajority in order to approve joining of Wautua. But I wouldn't characterize everyone on the board as being opposed to that. They could buy into it. We wouldn't do it for nothing. You know, we've got $125 million invested into Wautua between the three communities. They could buy in for $40 or $50 million, but that would be an alternative.
yeah, I acknowledge your point specifically to that point. I know that was discussed recently at a Township Board meeting, but I was under the understanding that the board had previously voted some time ago, maybe about a year ago, to oppose this entire development and you know, be very forthright about doing that. If I misunderstood that, I apologize.
It's going to be the lesser of evils, I think. You know, the Superior Township turned down the application to run the sewer line through Superior Township to Wautua, and I believe it's the Court of Appeals upheld it. So the question is, will the Supreme Court hear that case? So I'm not sure that's completely done. And then in the second option is if they joined Wautua, which in the long run, it might be possible. I wouldn't automatically assume that it's not, because I would prefer that over a wastewater treatment plant on the border of Plymouth Township and Salem Township.
Very helpful input. So basically, that's Commissioner Cebulski asked me to share this letter with you. I also made the point at the very end that if they decide to go ahead and install the wastewater treatment anyway, it should be located at the southwest corner of their site rather than northeast corner. That way, with the way the wind blows, if there are any issues with odors or such, it would be affecting the people in that development as opposed to affecting Plymouth Township and Northfield Township.
Now, that's a great point.
Yeah.
How would you like to buy a house in this development with the wastewater treatment plant right next door?
What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right?
It is. It is.
So anyway, I just, Chairman Spolsky asked me to share it with you, so I've done that. And we'll leave it at that.
I think Tim put a lot of effort into it, and he summarized it very well about the green belt between western Wayne County and moving westward toward Ann Arbor. And if anyone cares to write a letter to Eagle, now would be the time to do it, or attend the public hearing that they're going to have in April. And I think I remember reading an article not so very long ago. There's an oversight group over Eagle, and that's changed. the governor has changed. Have you heard anything about that? I'll look for that. I'll try to find that article where I read it. And I'm just wondering what impact that would have on this.
So the governor put together a commission that
Another,
can trumpet the dome?
there's some group that Eagle was reporting to, and now they're reporting to some other group.
I wasn't aware of that.
But I'll have to see if I can find that article.
If you can't find it, contact Friends of the Rouge,
Yeah.
because they'll know.
They'll know.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah.
All right.
If I see somebody from there tomorrow, I'll
Yeah,
ask
you
them.
can ask them, but I'll look through my stuff and see if I can't find it. Anyone else with commissioner comments?
I just want to thank whoever is instituting getting us email addresses. I just found out today I didn't get the copy emailed to me, it got bounced back. So I don't know if it's Bob or
Well,
whomever.
Bob has been working behind the
Thank you.
scenes, so we appreciate those
Yeah,
efforts and
that's
everyone
true.
else involved in trying to get the licenses and,
Surprised it was even an issue.
yeah.
We shouldn't be using personal email addresses for township business.
Right.
We're not, we can afford it.
Okay.
When will those email addresses be? Will it
Bob
start?
Jenks has to do that work, and I'll nudge him along.
Okay.
So we
And then-
have to download that.
Yeah, and then everybody's gonna be required to go through, some security training. It's like 10 minutes. It's really simple. Like, don't open emails that say you just won $100 million.
Laura, I have a quick question for you, Laura, and this may have been addressed at one of the meetings that I've missed I was out with my wrist. But for the new commissioners, is that training on the citizen planner?
Yes, it is available if there are any commissioners that would like to sign up.
To do it. It was
Yeah, I
great.
highly encourage it.
Yeah,
Highly
really encourage it. It's all online.
Where's that at?
Yeah,
It's
You
fun.
get a cool certificate when you're done.
It is
You
really
get a
cool.
certificate when you're done.
suitable for training.
It is.
If there are no additional comments from anyone, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:56?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Barberina and supported by Commissioner Boyd to adjourn at 8:56. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries adjourned.